Apple launches new phones, watches, and AirPods just in time for the holiday buying cycle, along with AI features and some interesting health benefits. We're going to chat about what we liked and what we didn't like on this episode of Today in Tech. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Joining us to talk everything Apple is Ken Mingus, executive editor of Computer World, and Michael Simon, executive editor of Macworld. Hello once again, gentlemen.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. So, all right, let's just jump right in. They had Apple announced this was part of its Glow Time event on September 9th, a rare Monday event rather than their traditional Tuesday one. But they did announce a bunch of different things, a whole bunch of new iPhones, some new watches, AirPods, etc. So, out of all of the different announcements, what one stood out for you guys as the most interesting? Ken, let's start with you, Ken.
Oh, really? I was going to let Mr. Macworld go first.
All right. Mr. Macworld. No, you deferred. It's like the kickoff.
I defer to greatness here.
Okay, Mike.
All right. I'm going to say the iPhone 16 non-Pro models because, honestly, I think I'm going to downgrade, so to speak, this year because there's a lot of great new features on the iPhone 16. The biggest being, we'll get into it later, but this new camera control button. That, had I known what it was, like there was rumors about, what like it was gonna control the camera, but it's more than that. It absolutely feels like a Pro feature, and it's on all four models this year. The only thing you're getting by going to the Pro is a telephoto lens and a couple of real high-end, like video features. Otherwise, the non-Pro, out of nowhere, became really good this year.
Yeah, I think Mike's spot on. I'm still going to go Pro because I like the Pro Max. I want to get the big Pro Max.
You can get a Plus the same size. We're talking about 1/10 of an inch.
I know. To your point, the camera capture button or camera, whatever that button is called, is fascinating in terms of what it allows you to do. I was actually surprised it was on all four models as well. And I'm wondering the features that it enables in the new phones, will those features be available in, like, say, last year's phone if you don't have the camera capture button? Or is that button...
Well, yeah, they're all, like, it doesn't add a function. It doesn't add a feature. It adds functionality.
Right. Okay.
In the sense that, like, you could always zoom, obviously.
Yeah.
You could, select the different settings that it can do. You can also use your volume button as a shutter. Like, all that's there.
Yeah.
But this just kind of streamlines it and makes it, puts it right at your fingertips, literally.
Yeah.
And kind of opens up the camera app to function more like, like an old school SLR camera, like a real camera.
Yeah. It is interesting to see how many of the features that are on the iPhone 15 Pro line have now rolled down to the regular iPhone 16 line.
There's that too, but also a lot of the features that are on the iPhone 16 Pro are also on the iPhone 16. You really have to dive into the tech specs.
Yeah, why are they doing it that way, do you think?
I don't know. So over the last couple of years, it seemed as though they were creating a wider gap between the Pro models and the non-Pro models. And this year, that gap really, really slimmed.
Yeah, when I was reading a lot of the reactions from the event, it was the fact that there's not much difference between the basic the iPhone 16, the regular model, and then these high-end Pro models. Like you said, very, very specific tech things, and then the telephoto zoom lens.
I wouldn't be surprised if Apple's holiday quarterly results, we see a dip in the revenue for iPhone, mainly because people are spending less on the new models. I think the Pro and the Pro Max were huge sellers for the iPhone 15 because you got the Pro Max had the telephoto lens. There was a new titanium color and a bunch of other. The chip was a A17 versus an a 16.
Oh, okay.
So this year, if you're a buyer who isn't completely and totally engrossed in all this stuff, you're going to look at them in a store and say, not only is this one nicer, I kind of like the colors on this one better anyway, so I'm just going to go for this one.
What do you like on color on the 16? What's your
I
choice?
like that teal. It's like a different green than they've done in the past.
Yeah.
I like it.
No, it matters.
do-
I hear Keith laughing, but
Well,
it matters.
no. The reason I laugh about colors is because on most of the phones,
I don't use a case. I'm
yeah,
just gonna
it's
say.
the case.
Man.
So
I don't use one. I've never used one.
Man.
you've never
I have
used a case.
I have the cracks and all right. So I'll tell you a story. This morning I went to the Apple Store app, and I tried to do the get ready thing, right? So I typed in my trade-in. I have a 15 Pro Max, and they say, "Is there any damage to your phone?" And I do. I have a big crack. I don't know if you can see it. I have
Yeah.
a big crack
Yeah.
in the
Oh, yeah.
bottom of my
Absolutely.
phone. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I dropped it on concrete like months ago. So I said, yeah, the back glass is damaged. And they're like, nope, we're not, they won't even take it. So now I got to go to the Apple Store on Thursday, fix it for $29 on AppleCare, and then sell it back to Apple on Friday to get the full $600 or whatever it is that they're going to get.
$650. I did exactly the
$650,
same
there you go.
thing. But I have
So, yeah.
knock
So
on wood.
that's a pro tip. Fix your iPhone. If you have AppleCare, fix it first.
Right.
Or
Right.
even if you don't, because you'll still get more.
Yeah.
And then trade it.
They can't just deduct, trade it in, deduct
Right,
$30
that's what I
off
thought.
of your
It's
phone.
the same company.
I
Why not do
honestly
that?
thought that's why I didn't bother fixing it, because I didn't really care. And I just assumed when I traded it in, they just deducted $29 because I have AppleCare. But
Well,
no, they won't even
probably-
take it.
Yeah, it's probably two different divisions within the company, and they're
Maybe.
not talking to each other. Correct? Who knows? That was an interesting point when I was watching the video presentation yesterday too. Was the on both the 16 and then the Pro models, was they made it a point to talk about how much money you could get back by trading in your phone. It feels like this year, and I don't know if they've done this in previous years or I wasn't paying attention as much, but they're making it it seems like they understand where the market is in terms of people buying the phones. It's not the world of Mike Simons and Ken Mingus who will buy a phone every year. They see the data that says most people are holding onto their phones for longer periods of time. You're almost at that at the Chris level where he holds onto a phone for 5 years. I don't even know what model this is, but I'm sure it's a 12 or a 13 or 14 maybe. I don't even think it's a 14. That feels wrong for me. So again, they're acknowledging that their market is now people that have held onto their phones for 2 to 3 to 4 years. And they really want to point out, like, yeah, the price is $1,200, but you could get almost up to $800 off if you do the trade-in, right?
Yeah, and they specifically mentioned the iPhone 12, which is 3 years old now. That there are a lot of people out there that still have those phones. And listen, they're good. Apple, they make these phones better than we need right now, so they will last 3-4 years from now. That's why they update iOS 18. You can get on the iPhone 10R.
Right. Except for my
they're good.
Yeah, the biggest problem with me is right now is my battery life, and I think I went in at one point.
That's the issue.
Yeah, I went in at one point, and I was still getting a 90% charge, and they're like, "Yeah, you can't really get a new battery until that drops below 90%." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Do you
And
suppose-
it's relatively inexpensive to replace the battery, but yeah, you're right. They won't just do it because you want it.
But I thought that's what Apple was all about for me, or at least for me.
The question I have in terms of like, okay, so they made this very prominent statement that you can get up to $1,000 off, by trading in your old phone, whatever. Do you think, Michael or Keith, is this an effort to push people to the newer phones so that they can actually take advantage of the Apple Intelligence features and the machine learning things that really require the newer chips? It's a way of really boosting those tools and getting them before a lot of iPhone users that might have just waited another year or two to upgrade their phones.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is the first year that the upgrade isn't just a new color, a better chip, and a better camera. Apple Intelligence. This is the only phone you can buy right now that you can get or you can use Apple Intelligence, because they stopped selling the 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max, which also allows it. But the 15, which they do sell, you can't. It doesn't run on that. So if you want that, which I think they mentioned 45 times yesterday during the event, some crazy, it was all over the place. You have to buy one of the iPhone 16s, and if you look at their website, it's, you know, every phone, hello Apple Intelligence, built for Apple Intelligence. Like, they are really pushing it. And so my question for Apple is, it's not there. When you get these phones next week, Apple Intelligence isn't on it
Right.
yet. There's going to be a lot of people that want to run all the cool stuff that Apple Intelligence does. It's not there at all. It'll arrive at 18.1, but also the emoji stuff won't be there. The image creation stuff won't be there. The new Siri stuff won't be there. The visual intelligence stuff won't be there. It's really interesting that they're marketing a feature that is rolling out over the course of the next like several
6
months.
Yeah, exactly. I've been trying. Have you tried 18.1, the beta with the Apple Intelligence?
I have not.
Okay, I have. It's really handy and useful when it's there. I've tried some of the photo editing stuff, which is kind of feels like a beta. Sometimes it works really cool. Sometimes you wind up with images that you would never use for anything.
Sure.
But that's part of the beta part.
Yeah.
But it's going to be really, really handy. And the important thing is, you know, everybody's been talking about AI and generative AI. Apple talks about it not so much as they call it Apple Intelligence, yeah, but it's more about how it sort of inserts itself in the workflow of how you use your device.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's not just Apple Intelligence, it's all the little things it does that you might not even recognize at some point as Apple Intelligence. It'll just be your phone kind of helping you make an appointment, check a menu, figure out where you are, you know, redo an email, things like that. But you won't really recognize it as Apple Intelligence, I don't think. And as you say, Michael, especially since it's not going to arrive next week or even next month, maybe.
Yeah. I want to comment on something that Mike had asked about whether we think that their focus, or this was your question, Ken, where you were asking about whether they're doing this rebate thing on purpose to try to get people to jump to the phones because of the AI features. If the AI features were outstanding, don't you think that they wouldn't have to do this rebate thing? They would actually see in the market.
It's not a rebate. It's just a trade-in, and they've done this for years.
Right.
It's nothing new.
Okay.
You know, but I do think that there's a push within Apple to get as many people as possible using Apple Intelligence, if for no other reason. The more people that use it, the better it's going to be, because they'll have more. You know, a lot of it is on the phone, but some of it isn't. The iCloud compute stuff, you know, goes to their cloud. It's all encrypted, but it gets better the more it's used. So they want to get as many people using Apple Intelligence as they can, because, you know, it's going to come to the Mac as well with Mac OS Sequoia.
Right.
And I'm quite certain Vision Pro and eventually, I guess, the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch is tricky because it's such a small device, but at least the Siri stuff is useful.
Right.
On Apple Watch.
So, you know, we talked about all of the Apple Intelligence stuff when they announced that in June. So we got to see again how they're promoting it within the use of the iPhone. Was there anything that stood out to you guys as oh, this will be fun to use, or this is you know, interesting? I think the visual intelligence feature that they showed, which obviously again, you know, all the Android people are going to be Google had this with Google Lens.
Well, I mean, they did.
You know, they do. And so, you know, anytime I say something that I'm impressed with, I already know that, you know, Google's already done it, or Google, you know, has something similar. But for iPhone users, that visual intelligence stood out to me. The other stuff where, you know, they integrate it into your emails or to Slack, and they try to correct your tone, or, you know, some of those examples. For me, that doesn't resonate as much because, you know, I've already got that writing background. So I never feel like I need an AI to help me with my writing, for example.
I'll give you an example, Keith, that I mean, I agree with you about the visual intelligence. I think that's the way it's shown, the way they demonstrated it is really cool. Something simple, and this is what I mean by a feature that will be in your workflow with your device that you may not recognize as Apple Intelligence, the email summaries. So when your email comes in, you've got a long email, and you'll get a summary at the top that just kind of gives you the basics. So then you can decide, do I want to spend time reading this long email, or do I know exactly what I need to know and I can move on?
Yeah.
You know, something simple like that. It seems so small, And in some ways it is. It's a very minor thing, but it's the sort of thing that I think, I mean, we use email all the time, every day on our phones, just scrolling through things. And to be able to see, quick summary, and have it be accurate, I think is going to be kind of handy.
But would that be only if you use the Apple Mail app, right? Like, is this going to be? Because I get all of my email on Gmail usually, and then sometimes I have to use Outlook for my work email, but that's a separate app. It always felt like it was only going to be on their Mail app but maybe I'm thinking the Mac version.
Well, I would wonder, I mean, okay, if we're looking at clashing AIs, I mean, Google could implement that for Gmail, and, Microsoft could implement that for Outlook.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing.
But then you're looking at Copilot versus, whatever Apple has, right?
Gemini, isn't that what Google is?
Gemini, yeah.
Yeah. But so something like that, I think is going to be really handy. Again, you won't recognize it. You won't say, "Oh, there's Apple Intelligence helping me out." You'd be like, "Oh, cool. I'm getting summaries now in my email." Most people won't really be focused on it.
Yeah, it feels like this is stuff we've seen before from not just from like other hardware makers. Obviously, Google has their stuff, but just in general, generative AI types of tools, and you see Microsoft kind of plugging this with, their stuff, their Copilot thing. So, again, visual intelligence. Take a picture of something, get some information on it. That's cool. And maybe that's something that maybe it existed on apps before, but now it's just part of the camera, and it's connected to that button.
Well, I was going to say, don't underestimate the value of privacy here, though. Apple has long looked up privacy, and one of the concerns that people have had about using generative AI tools is that their data gets out there, it's used to train other models. They don't want to lose control over especially the information that's on your phone. That's about as personal as you can get, just about. And so Apple talking about how a lot of this stuff is done on the device. Apple never sees the information or data or requests and things unless you're going through that. What was it? The
private server control or something.
Private compute.
iCloud private compute.
With verifiable third-party proof, something.
What's that?
Well, where they're verifying it through a third party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see how effective that is. But again,
I can assure you with full, with every I would bet every amount of money that I have that it will be 100% private.
Right.
Apple is not going to say it if it's not.
And that's a huge differentiator with a lot of these other platforms and tools. And Apple it's not that Apple is just now announcing that it's going to be private. They've been talking privacy for years or decades, And so this is something where you really don't want this data to get out, your personal data from your device. They have to almost do it this way. So having it on the device in and of itself tells you how powerful these phones are. I mean, this is really intensely computational algorithms that are running to figure this stuff out in anything remotely resembling real time. It's on your phone.
Yeah, I think they did try to mention this in the presentation where they were talking about the personal intelligence will be personal to that end user, and all of the answers will be in context, or the actions will be in context to you. So the way that you're going to be using Apple Intelligence, Ken, will be completely different from the way that Mike uses it and the way that I use it, it seems. And that's a little confusing because sometimes we're just looking for the answer to something, and you would expect that the answer would all be the same thing. But I think it's more about actions, correct? Well,
yeah, it will. If you're looking for a specific factual answer, Siri will provide a specific factual answer.
Well, we hope.
Theoretically. I found something online for that.
No, that's supposed to be. Siri's supposed to be getting a lot better.
Yeah.
Again, that's another down the road feature, maybe next spring. The biggest thing here with the AI stuff and specifically visual intelligence, no one uses their phones like iPhone users use their phones. That's why these features aren't a thing until Apple adds them. Android had always on display for, I want to say, 15 years. That's an exaggeration, but it was a long time before it became to the iPhone, and then it became a thing people talked about. AI, it's been a thing for a couple of years. The amount of people using ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot is probably less than 5%. Once Apple has it on their phone, people are going to use it. It's going to jump. It's going to become a thing that people do. Now, whether or not it's better or useful, that remains to be seen. And
Right.
how it integrates into our lives.
Let's
But-
let's talk about two of the examples they used on when they were showing the visual intelligence feature. First one was that there was a guy walking down the street and he saw a poster for a concert or an event or something. Takes a picture of the phone and then the intelligence part of it reads the date, sees the date of the event, and then I'm assuming puts it in the calendar of the person's phone. And then the second thing is, then he sees a dog and he takes a picture of the dog and it immediately tells him what type of dog it is. The first part where you're taking a picture of a poster, what I would do now without this feature is I would have this photo in my album, and then I would later, if I would go, oh yeah, I saw that cool concert, maybe, and then decide at that point whether I want to go or not, and then write the date down in a calendar or just scribble it somewhere. So is the action? I guess the action part is more impressive. The dog thing, I don't know. It's nice, but I've also seen examples from an e-commerce thing where you're like, oh, hey, that's a cute jacket that you have. Let me take a picture of it, and then I can buy it from someone. Like that's all. And Google does that too, right?
Yeah. In fact, the buying part of Apple Intelligence is linked with Google search.
Yeah.
What I was going to say, Keith, is that what you're talking about, what you're describing is sort of the same thing. You're searching for information, but you're doing it in a different way. Instead of doing a picture to a web search to text, whatever, you're just doing an image and then it pops up in front of you. Also, in addition to information about the concert, maybe a chance to buy tickets right then. So you buy your ticket, while you're thinking about it. Same thing with the restaurant menu. You're at the restaurant, you take a picture outside, you get the menu, and you're like, oh, I'm going to go in now,
Well, yeah, I liked that example too, where he's walking by the restaurant, and then it's like, and then we can make a reservation for you, or you could just walk in to the restaurant and ask them. But that sounds like, what if it's closed? What?
He's got somewhere else to go.
Yeah, I mean, you might not be like, I do that all the time. I'm walking around, I'm driving around, I pass someplace that looks interesting, particularly a restaurant, so now I have to open my phone, launch Safari, get a new tab, type in the name of the restaurant, retype in the name of the restaurant because I probably spelled it wrong. Click, find the right link. Now go to their navigation, find the menu, wait for it to download and scroll it. This takes all, and I'm not exaggerating. Like I'll do all of those things.
That's a lot
because
of
I'm something of a foodie. I like to. If I'm in a new city or something, I want to check out new stuff. This takes all of that out of there and turns a 35-40 second step into one.
Yeah.
That's convenience. That's what AI is supposed to be doing for our lives, is making things more convenient.
Right. Yeah. Except that it's not going to be available immediately. We'll have to wait.
That's right.
Yeah.
It'll be that they said. I think they said later this year for the visual intelligence stuff. So hopefully soon. But yeah, that's the biggest issue with selling this stuff, is that you're selling something that you're not getting. It's an interesting thing to me. How, like, is there going to be a pop-up screen when you set up your new phone that says, "Hey, Apple Intelligence is coming later this year"? Because there's a lot of people that aren't going to know that. Yeah. That are going to buy these things. They see a commercial, see an ad, see a poster,
right,
and want to try the thing that Apple is telling them is great, and they can't.
Do you think that's the biggest selling point right now for all these phones? Is the AI stuff, right?
I mean, I don't know if it is the biggest selling point, but it's certainly Apple's biggest selling point.
Yeah,
that they're pushing it. It's all over their website. It's going to be all over their signage.
What would the announcement on Monday have been like about the new phones if there'd been no discussion of Apple Intelligence and what it's doing?
It would have been somewhat similar. I mean, it was, the hardware is still the hardware, the camera is still the camera, all those features are still there. They spent like 5 minutes just recapping the Apple Intelligence features that they told us about at WWDC. The only new thing was that visual intelligence stuff.
Yeah.
The phones are still great.
Yeah.
They're predicating it. They're hanging it on this thing that is going to arrive in just batches and pieces, and not everyone even updates when they get an update. So like iOS 18.1 will arrive in October, and half the people that have a new phone are even going to get it because they don't do it immediately. It takes time.
There's another thing I wanted to ask you guys, and I think I've mentioned this during previous events, and this is more of a pet peeve of the way that they present these product announcements. And again, it feels like Apple is respecting its users, obviously, and how they use their smartphones, but it always presents itself as they're trying to present the ideal version of the perfect human being, where these people are always fit and they're always interested in health. They're always looking for ways to organize their life better, whether it's putting all of their photos in albums and tagging and their email, and everything goes into the calendar. And so here's all these new tools that'll help you make this do better. When, in reality, most of my phones are in my photo album. I don't tag anybody. So, they're like, oh, well, you could say, hey, show pictures of the kids when they were visiting with Aunt Maureen. And I'm like, well, I've never tagged Aunt Maureen in any of my photos.
Well, but that's where Apple Intelligence comes in, is that it will know.
It's going to know the people
who your
based
kids
on
are. So I
How's
don't
it
do
gonna
that
know
either.
that?
My phone knows who my son is.
Really?
Now. I don't even have Apple Intelligence. It knows that my son looks like this, and here are all these pictures. If you go into the photo album right now and type in tree or baseball or spaghetti, it's smart enough to get all those pictures and find them.
But
So
what about
it's
my
doing
son's
that now.
what about my son's name or my kid's name?
It should know it.
Because of the contacts, because I put that photo as a contact.
At a contact, and the way you interact, it learns all that stuff. Machine learning has been a thing on the iPhone for years.
Yeah,
they just didn't label it.
Well, because that's kind of creepy to me, but maybe
It's not, because it's only on your phone. It's not creepy at all because it's on your device. It's not going anywhere. Apple's not looking at it.
Okay.
To your point, Keith, I do think that there's going to be a little bit of setup that will be required. I mean, for instance, with I'm actually learning from Michael what he's saying right now is new myself, because I assumed with images especially, there was a time when you could label someone,
right,
mom or a name or whatever, and then it would recognize the pattern recognition of the person, and you could have it find all the images that it could with that person's picture in it. And I assumed it was basically, and I could say I could use the name, mom, Bill, whoever, and
right,
it would put everything together. So I didn't realize that it kind of did it already somehow with machine learning, based on whether it's pulling information from your contacts, or maybe it's just context based. You're always with this little kid, and it makes a leap that maybe that's your son. I don't know.
Because if it wasn't, it would be creepy.
Maybe I'm overselling it. I don't know if it knows specifically it's my son, but if I type in Gabriel, my son's name, all the images pop up of him, and I have not organized anything. Literally nothing.
Okay. All right, I'm going to do this after the show. I'm going to try to see if I can find people.
One more point though, Keith, to the point you were making in terms of Apple, and the ideal user of its devices.
Right.
I think, there are lots of apps and features and things on devices we don't use, that everybody doesn't use. But I think, at least in terms of the way Apple presents them, it's kind of aspirational. Don't you kind of like the idea of having all of your images organized and in folders, and so you could easily get to whatever you want, even if you don't do it? Isn't it? So when Apple says you can do this, we're going to make it easier. It's sort of an aspirational thing for all of us who may be disorganized or lazy.
It's the ideal versus the reality of what people are really using it for.
Yeah.
Right. For example, with all of the video stuff that they show, they show these, the pro level videographer, cinematographer, and they're holding that device that's probably an image stabilizer, and they're shooting a video with The Weeknd, and they're doing all of this amazing stuff with this iPhone 16. Yet everybody I've ever met, in the video space has never shot anything with me on an iPhone, and they're using dedicated hardware for that device. And I think the reason that they're doing that is because of the battery life. because again, they're putting all of this stuff into one phone. It's not like you're going to have 6 phones and then use just this one for the camera stuff. You're using one phone for all these different things, and the battery life is eventually going to kill you if you, or it's going to die if you keep using it for all of these things. And that's what bugged me. It's like, I'm never going to actually create a movie with one of these things. I'm going to shoot my own personal videos, but I'm not a.
But those are.
Are they trying to convince people? Are they trying to convince the pro videographers out there to?
I think that's what it was.
Because I mean, Chris, who is our professional videographer here, just scoffed at me when I said that.
The pro features this year are extremely pro.
Yeah. Super high end.
I mean, like that 4K slow motion.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like they're really high end, which is what that. It was surprising because they could have left some of the iPhone 16 features for the Pro. They didn't. So you have to really be a videographer to take advantage of those features.
Like for example, so Apple has its own content creation studio because they've got stuff that they're doing for Apple TV Plus. They've got series that they're shooting. They're not shooting any of this stuff on iPhones, right?
Not those.
Well, but that's what they're implying. They're implying that this phone is so good.
They're not implying that. I mean, the weekend
you're going to be the next Spielberg with an iPhone. They're
no one's going to use an iPhone in a professional setting. No professional videographer is going to use it.
I don't believe that. I think that people do use iPhones all the time for that. I think they're cheaper. I think there's a lot of amateur filmmakers that want to get high-end equipment but can't afford it. Now, listen, the weekend can. But they're just showing like, hey, this guy was able to create this video.
Yeah.
This multi-platinum huge star was able to create this video for his new song with an iPhone. So they're using a recognizable person. But I think iPhones are used in video filmmaking way more than we think.
And the other aspect of that too, which again, it's not necessarily me, but I see this with my kids, is the TikTok creator, influencer type universe out there. The people that they've never they don't want to learn any of these other equipment for video. Like all of their video photos and everything is on the phone. So maybe that's what the appeal is for those types of influencers out there and those types of content creators.
Mainly vlogging.
And vlogging.
That's it.
Yeah. And live vlogging too.
You know, I want to go back to something, Mike, you said earlier, that it's in terms of the mix of features between the regular iPhone 16 and the 16 Pro lines. With so many of the Pro features sort of moving downhill to the 16, do you think with the super high-end things that they were showing, especially around video, maybe video and some audio, that they realize that the iPhone Pro line is maybe a smaller slice of the pie, but they can go more upscale with it in terms of price. They can go higher up in price with that. And
they didn't. The prices are the same. They kept the prices.
I know. I'm thinking, over the next couple of years.
Maybe.
One of the things they talked about was that these Apple Intelligence features, coming to you for free or something like that, which kind of almost implied that there might be future Apple Intelligence features that you might pay a subscription for.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Apple's big into services. Google charges for its advanced Gemini stuff. Like it's not out of the realm of possibility. I think it'll be free for a little while.
Yeah.
And I think a subset of it always will be free, also like Google Gemini. But I think there will be high-end features, sure. That wouldn't surprise me. $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever they charge. Make it part of the bundle. And
small, but yeah.
Yeah, of course, sure. Yeah. But they got to make it something that you want to buy first. They can't sell it and then have it be junk. So they got to slowly roll out these features, make sure they're ready for us, and then update them once or twice, and then charge. Sure.
Yeah. So
Apple never met a service it didn't want to charge for.
Well, no smart company did.
Right. That's right.
Smart business.
Absolutely.
I want to jump on two other of the announcements from the other things. It wasn't just the phones; they had other devices that they were announcing. But their focus on health with two features was kind of stood out for me. One was on the Apple Watch. They now have the ability to I don't want to say detect, but at least they can monitor whether or not you have sleep apnea. And I think that's a big deal for a lot of people that might not know if they have it, or if they think that they have it because they snore a lot or their partner nudges them and going, stop snoring, would have to go to a doctor and kind of go through all of those batteries of tests. So it's interesting that they've now added this to the watch feature. And then the second thing was on the AirPods Pro 2, where they're now going to add the ability to get it certified as an over-the-counter hearing aid. From someone who is in Generation X and getting older, and being told by people, hey, you might be losing your hearing, Keith, or what's going on? Why is this TV so loud? When in my mind it's not. Instead of me going to a doctor and trying to get fitted for a hearing aid, this might be a way of me to get that and I don't want to say look cool, but at least look like I'm not 70 or 80. So I think that's an interesting part, and that they are recognizing that there's part of the audience that, no, again, they're not replacing a hearing aid. If you really do have hearing loss down the road, I think you would get a better device than this.
Aren't you going to be?
Maybe not.
I was just going to say, aren't you going to be able to use the phone and the new AirPods to actually do a hearing test?
Yes,
and get results that can tell you. Maybe
they said a clinical grade hearing test.
They're just waiting FDA approval or something like that.
Yeah, like it's not just like a fly-by-night feature that you do in like a YouTube video. Like this is like a real deal hearing test.
I really want to try that out because
I'd like to as well.
Probably have some hearing loss, and I would like to know.
I mean, Ken's a lot older than I am, but I'm sure I have some as well.
Yeah, you're older than me too, Ken.
You'll get there yet, Sonny, someday.
But I mean, that is and again, it's three guys here talking about this, but that is something that, when you watch people with hearing aids, it was usually an older person. There was this thing of, that means I'm officially old if I'm wearing a hearing aid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so at least they're addressing that part of it, is the potential stigma.
A couple things quick before we move on to the sleep apnea. Like that's first of all, it's a free feature. It's just an upgrade.
Right.
It's a big deal. It's like hearing aids can cost thousands of dollars.
They do cost thousands.
Yeah, Chris, like you
and they don't. First of all, as you were just saying, like
fidgety, you can't adjust them. You have to go back professionally to have them done.
Yeah, I mean, they're
open up even a quarter of the hearing aid market to just using AirPods and adjusting them with your phone. That's an amazing revolution right there.
Plus, you get the benefits of actually having AirPods and not just the hearing aid on top of that. That was the one thing that we've heard rumors about the hearing stuff, and it's impressive that A, they delivered it for free, and B, that they're delivering it at all, and it appears to be like a real FDA approved feature and not just like a software trick.
Right. So Chris, I think you have experience with the hearing aid thing, right? Too. It's like $3,000, right? Around.
Yeah, they're about like $3,000 plus per hearing aid. So could range from like $6,000 to $7,000 to $8,000. But like, if you're getting like a professional hearing aid, let's call it that, right? It's going to be tuned and geared specifically to your hearing. So I don't know. I think the hearing aid functionality of the AirPod, I think it's just going to cater to more of just the hard of hearing. You know what I mean?
But they sell
like the people like me where my wife tells me
for you, Keith. Not for like someone with like degenerative hearing loss,
right?
Or but
it is. But cool. They sell over-the-counter hearing aids that are thousands of dollars.
Yeah, but they're not the greatest. Like, but they do sell it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I don't think Apple
I think it's a cool feature. We're not arguing at all. I think it's a neat feature, and it's a neat little market of addressing this for people that have been thinking about, oh yeah, I might be losing my hearing, and maybe the next time I go to the doctor, I'll ask for a hearing test. But I only see my doctor once a year, and sometimes I forget to ask her. So. Yeah. So to the sleep apnea thing, like that's another thing where, again, my wife tells me I snore a lot, and I was concerned maybe I do have it. I think my brother has it, and he has to have that giant CPAP machine and all that. So it would be nice to actually have something that would tell me, or is it just going to tell you, yeah, you have it, or is it going to try to wake you up?
Go see a doctor because you might have it.
Yeah. And it's going to be based on, is it breathing or heart rate? Heart rate, probably.
Probably both.
Yeah.
Sleep apnea is basically when you stop breathing for an extended period of time until your body says, hey, breathe, and it's like if you've got a 20-second gap in breathing at night in your sleep, then you might have sleep apnea.
Yeah. So again, it's interesting that Apple is taking this approach. Were there any other parts of the announcements that jumped out to you for the other devices? The Watch Series 10, they're saying is a pretty significant watch upgrade, and then this Ultra 2 black titanium watch. Again, I still don't have one. I did have one for a while, and I got frustrated. I think it was the Series 3 or 4. So I'm still watchless.
I was most interested in AirPods 4. We can talk about Apple Watch. I wasn't all that impressed with Apple Watch, but AirPods 4. So the AirPods 4 without noise cancellation is essentially an upgrade to the AirPods 3. AirPods 3 cost $179 Monday morning.
Yeah,
and that basically got a price cut to $129. Because it's not a cut rate version of that. It's a newer version of that. And I was shocked that we've been hearing about this kind of budget AirPods line for a while. I expected it to be basically a repackaged AirPods 2. This is not that. This is much better than that. And it's $129. That's a real bargain. And in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, it'll be down to like $99 on Amazon, which is crazy cheap for that, I think.
If you want the active noise cancellation, you have to go up a notch.
It's $179, which is what it was before. That's what the AirPods 3 cost before, or $169. $179, $179, I forget.
I also think they mentioned that they're more comfortable. Like, what's the current feeling on comfort for AirPods?
It varies. I mean, they're hard plastics, so some people think they're great, other people think they're not. Because every ear shape is a little bit different. But yeah, Apple said they use 50 million data points or something. I don't know. Your mileage will vary.
Get them.
There's no tips. That's the Pro.
Okay.
The AirPods 4. So they're doing noise cancellation without that suction fit thing, which is I'm curious to see how well that works as well, because you don't need to have that tight fit that you do with the AirPods Pro, which I'm assuming why the hearing stuff is only on the AirPods Pro because of the rubber tips that you get with it.
They didn't announce new AirPods Pro, did they?
They did not. No.
Yeah. I didn't want to make sure I'd missed anything.
I could go out today and buy AirPods Pro 2, and then I will get that hearing aid feature at some point.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other final thoughts, guys, in terms of the announcements? Anything else jump out at you, or?
I like the desert titanium color. I don't know that I would get that, but I think I like that kind of bronzy coppery.
Yeah, it's okay. I think the Pro colors in general are just lame. Like, just because you're a professional, why do you have to have such drab, lifeless colors? Like,
that's right, show some colors, Ken. Come on.
Have you met a professional? That's what we're like. All drab and lifeless.
You're calling us professionals?
White or gray or a darker gray is your options.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching Color Talk today on the channel. All right, guys. Again, thanks again for everything that you cover in terms of the Apple stuff. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, man.
All right, that's all the time we have for today's episode. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, add any thoughts you have below. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.